Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushua, Bashem, HaKadosh, double as the apostles and elders, great most on the world, Shalom to the brothers to the like in truth. Um, yeah, so you more or less got a confirmation of the assisted dying, as they're calling it, bill in the UK, and it's interesting because the big examples kind of look for is Canada towards how this can be utilized, because a big aspect of how they've been using it in Canada is to save money essentially within the system. So Canada also has a socialized healthcare, free healthcare system like the UK. That got the NHS over here. So then with that, then the initially it was just certain conditions where it's like terminally ill or whatnot, but then it's something they expanded it over time to where now it's like even with mental health you have it as an option, where it's like you can be depressed and be like, I want to die, and they'll be like, okay, and they're just gonna fucking put shoot you up and put you down like a dog, which is fucking just insane. But that's kind of it's been a push for a while. Like euthanasia has been an argument that's been made for like I think 2 decades at least, easy, a bit more. Even just counting over here, because there was a few European countries that started doing it, and from there it's kind of people like, oh, blah blah blah, should be justified. And the thing with the way it's done in the fuck's it called in Canada, is something that I think initially was meant to just be an option that you were informed of, but then you had like people saying, oh, they were being at risk of being denied benefits if they did, and then essentially the only option would be, because they had certain conditions that they have to take themselves out, man, which it's fucking wild. It's fucking it's a weird ass situation, but that's these are the things that have become normalized like now as well, and people think there's some empowerment within it or some kind of they're gaining from it. So it's on the Washington Post. It says UK lawmakers approve assisted dying law. British lawmakers voted Friday to legalise assisted dying, a final step in the House of Commons. That means the practice will almost certainly be permitted in England and Wales in the coming years, marking a pivotal societal change here. Because most times, almost never do the House of Lords shut something down. It says what? Lawmakers voted 314-291 for legalization following an impassioned 4-hour debate modeled on a law in Oregon, the terminally ill adults bill will allow terminally ill people to choose to die. Those with less than 6 months to live will be permitted to seek lethal medication from the NHS. And it's kind of funny because you have various situations where people say they're told they have like 6 months, a year, whatever, and then they can live for like a decade on afterwards. Like they can live, but this, that's what they've essentially been setting up, what they've established, and it's something that you go to these other what do you call it, these other countries and look at how it's actually been used. A lot of it is similar to how like abortion's meant to be. people always talk about, oh, rape and incest, uh, as the bulk of it, but then it basically got expanded to just be like inconvenience. Like, it's a bad time in my life, and then with the the choose to die shit, going from Canada is like the example I'm kind of looking at, is the way they've kind of expanded it there. Seems kind of nuts, man. The shit that they're kind of getting away with, for where there's various forms of justification of people being like, what do you call it, uh not not even wanting to take themselves out, but then that's like feeling like that's the only choice. Those are a lot of stories that was coming out, and it very much seemed like they wanted to restrict how much money had to be spent on like maintaining life for these patients and whatnot. That's why, the NHS having a similar setup. That's why I'm kind of using that as an example, because it could it could easily be pushed as, okay, well, oh, you got a particular mental health issue, you got you got a jacked up bodily situation. Look, just fucking take yourself out, man. You'll feel better, I promise. Fucking nuts, bro. But yeah, that's the times we're in. So it says, subject to approval of 2 doctors and a panel of experts, whatever the fuck that means. The bill now moves to the House of Lords, the upper chamber of the British Parliament, for further scrutiny, but it's highly likely to become law. I do not underestimate the significance of this day. Kim Leadbeater, a Labour Party lawmaker and main champion of the bill, they've been pushing it through, and it seemed, from the initial push, it seemed very popular. So it was like seeming like it's going to be pushed. Like, skipping down a bit, it says what? A poll published this week found that 73% of Britons backed the assisted dying bill, while lawmakers voted in favour of the bill in November. An earlier stage in the legislative process uncertainly lingered. So it's very popular. But then it's I don't know, it's an aspect of, when you go into Wisdom of Solomon, to Esau's spirit, his whole approach to, life. Enjoy and indulge in the pleasures, and then, take solace in the fact you're not going to be held to account. Well, as far as that, they're thinking they're not going to be held to account for things as soon as they blast themselves and obliterate themselves from experiencing anything on this earth. That's the mindset they're going through it with. As far as to them, it's like beyond death, there's not going to be any repercussions. There's not going to be any, anything they're going to have to deal with. And life now is about accruing pleasures, experiences, bliss, pleasures. And that's something that most people adhere to. Most people kind of in life. And the joke is most experiences people have out here is fucking awful. Life is utter dog shit below a certain level of what you call it, of affluence within the society. And even then as well, it's like, unless you're born into that level of affluence, you're likely going to experience a lot of hardship and graft to kind of get up somewhere. But the mindset, the appeal, that American dream, it's been idealized to where people won't even acknowledge or kind of process how fucked up and messed up in the brain they are, but they'll grind, they'll graft to try and get some kind of bliss, which is why it's like they go through that hardship. It's like people, the thing is, as well as a lot of these health conditions people get in later age is repercussions or consequences to the lifestyle you lead. But that's people have been trying to avoid that shit for the longest. Okay, yeah. Steve Darling, a liberal Democrat, told the Washington Post that while he was sympathetic to the bill, he had changed his view because of inadequate palliative care funding. While in Britain, which in Britain depends heavily on charitable donations. People think people might think I could bite the bullet and get out of this situation because I am not receiving a service that gives me a decent quality of life towards the end. And that I think is really that's the edge to it, because I just think back to the Georgia Guidestones. Like culling is that's factored in, man. That's an objective, and then this is being sold as charming, appealing, like like you can be lying in bed, twitching, convulsing, spazzing out, when you could just get your dicks up one time and have someone blow your brain. Fucking hell, have someone blow your brains out, and then you're dying with dignity. You're dying thinking about um, having, anyway. But what does it say? Others said they agreed with the principle of letting people choose to die, but could not back the bill involved Labour member Vicky Foxcroft, who started her work with disabled people. They want us as parliamentarians to assist them to live, not to die. And yeah, that's it's there's a whole aspect of it, but um, once it's kind of passed, that's the thing is, once these things are passed, at a later point, the resignation to it will just happen over time, and then people will just kind of lose. There'll be other things that they get. People ain't gonna give a fuck in a couple of months to years, and once it's kind of integrated, it will just be normalized. It's like the generations now, where in the UK you used to be able to smoke indoors until what 2006, I believe it was, summer, like April 2006, May 2000, something like that. And I remember there was a London like comedy club, underground one, where Dave Chappelle was performing, and he's like, he lit up a cigarette, and so I had to run up and stop him, and it was interesting because that shit just seemed like that was just the culture. It was like pubs as well in the UK. People used to just be in pubs, smoking and drinking. That was the norm. But now it's like pub garden, going outside, going out front of a pub or a club or whatever to smoke is the culture. Like people don't, you wouldn't even think people used to smoke indoors ever anywhere. But that's and future generations, they're not even they didn't even think about that shit. Them motherfuckers vape anyway, man. Um, but yeah, it's just something that, huh? We'll see. It's gonna get pushed, and then accepted, and then people ain't gonna think about it. There's a lot of things kind of like that, but it can easily be expanded and used to then cause various, like it can be used with devious intent, man, with ill intent. Sirach 12 and 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Yeah. Never trust thine enemy. These are the joke is even for Esau Edom on the bottom. The elites, they're not looking at you as allies. You're not at one with them. You're not in accord with them. You guys are after different things. You want this place to continue. These guys are thinking about scrapping this to blood clot and fucking wiping, the offscourings off, especially Jake, and then establishing a rule of total power forever. So, the average, like, nobody on the bottom is not in their consideration. So yeah, they would want you to be like, oh yeah, I'm killing myself. It feels great. But yeah, shalom, shalom.